Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Cobra Kai Season 4, Episode 4 review. This episode has so much different content in here. We have a princess party. We have a possible drive-in brawl. We have a discussion about the glorious music of Chicago, which I did a whole marching band sort of routine to Chicago when I was in high school. This was a very nostalgic episode for me.
Me too. They had Bloodsport and Jean-Claude Van Damme, which was my grandfather's most favorite actor. He loved him. He watched Jean-Claude Van Damme movies like over and over and over again. Love.
And this episode had a lot of wonderful moments, but also I think we have a few questions to ask some specific characters in here that we will get to.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in this episode. I mean, so far I have loved this season and I really enjoyed this episode too, but there's a couple things in this episode where I'm just like, I don't know, guys. Some things didn't work.
All right, well, before we break those down and anything else, hit that subscribe button because we are here doing 2 reviews of Cobra Kai a day as we power our way through Season 4. And of course, we don't want you guys to miss any of that, and we love hearing from you in the comments.
Okay, let's start with some of the stuff that I loved before we get into some of the problems. If you want to hear some of the problems, stick around to the end. But I want to focus on some of the things that I really loved. And the thing that I loved about this episode was everything with Terry Silver. It was so good. And why I love it as much as I do is because before this season started, I mean, we all know about Terry and how terrible he was and all the stuff that happened in the past. They really pushed it. That was like, and he's back and he's evil and all these horrible things are going to happen. And it's been very different than the way that they pushed it. And to my relief, I kind of didn't want to necessarily just see him come back and just be another John Kreese out for revenge. We already have Daniel's out for revenge. Johnny's out for revenge. Kreese is out for revenge. I didn't really want to see, Terry come back and he's also here for revenge. And they set it up really nice in the first episode where Kreese was like, hey, you want to come back and get some revenge on Danny? And he was like, no, man, I'm way past that now. I am not interested in that. And that continued on into this episode. And we saw that with that conversation with Kreese, where Kreese is just like, you're just going to let them get away with it? And he's like, no, I'm not. But at the same time, like, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for something else. I'm here to help these kids be winners. I'm here to restore sort of a glory to Cobra Kai, that we are a strong dojo. We're an honorable dojo. We're a dojo that's, creates winners and not, just people who are causing revenge, and that we're just going to jump back into the same circle again.
Okay, here is how Cobra Kai promoted Terry Silver.
I know, and he still might turn out to be like that, but right now, I really like what's happening.
Yeah, right now it's more of like a, okay, that sounds kind of creepy too, but okay,
no. It's not. He's like, I'm here to do this for myself. I have had all these things in my past that are holding me back, and these fears, and I thought I had dealt with them, but I haven't. So now I am here to tap into my fears and tap into my past and be better. And that's why the moment of this episode for me was him and Robbie talking, where he was like, listen, you have stuff that you haven't dealt with. You need to tap into those fears and you need to face them because you can't move forward without it. I love Terry.
Terry was great. And I think Terry's, ultimate end goal here is that, like, his karate career did not end up in the way in which that he wanted. And I think for him, this is sort of an opportunity to come back and end things further on exactly his own terms and exactly the way in which he wants to end them. Like, this is not a perfect analogy. I'm just throwing that out there right now. But it would sort of be like, a basketball player, like, blowing their knee out, like, leading into the playoffs. And it's like, okay, that's going to be their last moment on a court. But it's like, no, I want to come back. I want to actually fight for a championship and end the season in the way in which that I want. And like I said, it's different circumstances. But I think Terry this really has that sort of intrinsic value. And I think he sees Robbie as someone who he can help and somebody who he can kind of guide along his desired path. And we haven't really seen him make a connection with that many other students. So why not Robbie?
Yeah, and we even had that conversation with Robbie and his dad with all the stuff that happened with Hawk, and we'll talk about that, where Robbie went to his dad and was like, you need to get a handle on Hawk. Like, this is going really sideways. Like, just, get a handle on it. Where he kind of said, you had a problem with Kreese controlling you. I don't have that problem. I know where I am in my heart. I've gone through what I've gone through to get where I am, where I know what I want and I know where I'm going with it. And I feel confident in where I'm going with it. And we've seen that with action so far.
I would understand if a lot of people are questioning, okay, whether or not Robbie really is in control as he sort of says he is, but I actually believe him. Like, I do think Robbie sort of isn't being fully brainwashed, and I think his backstory, he's gone through so much already. I think he recognizes that Cobra Kai for now is a means to an end. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to be over here waving the Cobra Kai, like, support flag, but I get where Robbie is, and I think he's such a nuanced character, and he's a great person to sort of have in the middle of this just like sprawling rivalry.
Robbie is a great character in this season, especially because he is surrounded by revenge, right? And he's still able to kind of keep his focus of what he is trying to get out of this. And having someone like Terry come in who's on his own path that's kind of similar makes a lot of sense, where it's not just Robbie kind of drowning in revenge and people around him, where he's trying to keep his own path. He's got a sensei in here now who is on his similar path.
Touching on this theme of revenge one more time here, I mean, the end of this episode, I think is so great because it ends off on this reveal of there is Terry walking in, and then, Daniel sees him, and then we have this rush back of memories, and how is this going to impact Daniel moving forward, because there is a lot of just latent anger inside of him that, he uses Miyagi-Do to not really express, and so how will he handle this, just another rush from like decades ago?
Yeah, and I actually am wondering if, Terry feels confident enough to say, okay, we're not going to get revenge, but we're not going to do anything about the sprinkler system deal, which we will also talk about. But he's like, we're going to go over and have, it seems like, a conversation. And I kind of wonder if that's going to be the thing that's going to trigger Terry, that maybe he's feeling like, listen, I feel fairly confident. I've moved on from all this Daniel stuff. Let's go over and just talk about this and deal with this and put an end to a lot of this stuff that's going on off the mat, because it's screwing around with what I want to accomplish, which is I want to accomplish getting a bunch of students that are winners. And that's not going to happen if Miyagi-Do students are doing what they're doing. It's going to shake the confidence of my students. So I'm kind of wondering if that's going to trigger both of them, and then it's going to hit on a couple of other things inside Terry.
Oh, I would not be surprised at all. I just imagine this season's going to be like a glorious, entertaining, just like fire leading up to this All Valley, which I'm just assuming is going to be the finale at this point. Maybe they'll surprise us with it.
Okay, let's talk about some of the things now. If you are still with us 10 minutes in, that did not work. And let's start with Hawk. So I think it was even in the last review or the review before of this season, my concern with Hawk is that he hadn't done enough to convince me that he had turned over any sort of leaf. And that's the thing about Hawk, and my problem with this character throughout the series is it's just whoever happens to be around to influence him at that time influences him, and that I don't know that they'll ever really be able to be a big redemption for him. And then in this episode, it all is like the same. There was a moment at the beginning where Kenny is going through the school and he's wearing his Cobra Kai shirt, and some of the other kids are like, "Oh, Cobra Kai, how dare you wear that shirt?" And there's a moment where Hawk walks into the bathroom and he has the moment where he could have been like, "Kid, I don't know who you are, but let me tell you, I used to be in Cobra Kai. We're going to the cafeteria right now and I'm going to buy you a pizza and we're going to talk about this because there's another way to get out of this." Like, he's learned nothing. Instead, he throws him into the bathroom stall and is just kind of like threatens him. "Oh, we're going to, come get." It's just like, guy. And then we see him again at the drive-in, same thing, kind of bumps into him. "Oops, sorry." Like, it's all the same bullying stuff. There is no growth for Hawk, which is kind of a bummer.
He's too 1-0, and I liked the Hawk at the end of sort of season 3 where he was sort of realizing, okay, I can still be the old version of myself while also being this like karate mastermind. And it feels like it is sort of this tremendous step back. And I understand that he feels power with his karate skills. And I think he's found something that enables him to really take back everything that everybody has said through all of his life, because I know he's been bullied a lot of his life, but it just doesn't feel like this is the way to do it, especially when not everyone else in this Eagle Fang / Miyagi-Do combo, not all of them act like this. Like, he has a chance to sort of turn some of this around. Like, his best friend is Dimitri, who, by the way, Dimitri, my guy, has the line of the whole episode with, "They have Mr. Pibb and Dr. Pepper," which, by the way, I have never been to a place that has both. Dimitri, I feel you, I hear you.
I think with the Hawk character, if they were just gonna kind of go back to this again, just let him go like full evil. Just keep him at Cobra Kai and be the villain of the season. Not everybody has to have a redemption arc. Not everyone has to learn anything. It's real life, right? Some people don't ever learn anything. They don't get any better, Kyler. And that could happen for Hawk as well.
Well, while we're on the subject here of redemption arcs and whether or not it's possible, there's a really interesting, I think, Tory conversation to be had in this episode, because from one side of the coin, I actually really liked Tory in this episode. Like, I enjoyed her having this new job at like this princess party place. And, for as terrible as she can be, I actually thought she held it together fairly well up until she quit. She's like, she even sang for the kids. And you could see I'm not saying she liked the job, but she understood the value that this job had, and she wanted to do it right, despite the fact that she was dealing with, Samantha being just like horrible and petty, like right in front of her while she's trying to work.
Okay, we need to have the Amanda talk now. Amanda, throughout the series, has been one of my favorite characters. I've really enjoyed her. There's a lot of times you see on a show where it's like, the husband is the lead sort of thing, and the wife is there just to kind of pull up the lead. And that hasn't been the case with Amanda. She's had her own stuff to do. She's very funny. She's kind of charming.
Yeah.
There's just been a lot that I've really liked about her. And then this season happened. So we have had her facing her own sort of privilege in this bubble she's living in. We saw her get Tory fired, not on purpose, but she's the adult in the situation. She could have chosen to talk to Tory anywhere else but at her job, and not do that at her work. I mean, Amanda's an adult, so she had that choice and she knew it. Instead, she ended up getting her fired in the last episode. Now, here's Tory at this birthday party. She has gotten a second job. Amanda has also been informed of what Tory's home life is like. Yeah. That she needs this job to survive, to help pay her rent, to help her mother. So she knows the stakes. She watched her daughter Sam torment Tory during this whole thing, knowing how much that job meant to her, that she needs this job. It's not just she's getting extra spending money. She needs this job. And she just watched Sam do this the whole time, sitting right beside her while she's working. You're the adult, Amanda. Go over and pull Sam aside and be like, this isn't the place. She's at work. We can't do this. Like, learn something for yourself from what you just did. Then you have the nerve, after Tory is now like, I'm also done with this job, and leaves, to go outside and wag your finger at her and basically be like, well, what did you expect my daughter to do? I'm just like, I expected you, Amanda, to stop your daughter from acting like that, knowing what's, like, what is being held at the standard for this job for Tory. She needs it. And then you're going to end it with more blame on Tory to be like, well, if you just let people help you, maybe you would see things. It's like, stop piling on this teenager. You are the adult. Okay, it's the end of the rant.
See, here's where I think a lot of it is in my mind with Amanda, is that I think Amanda is just so inherently delusional. And I don't necessarily mean it in the worst possible way, but it's like you said, she's very, very privileged. She has a really good life. I think, from where she is in her life right now, she has a hard time sort of looking at other perspectives. And I think that in Amanda's head, when she goes outside after Tory has already quit, I think she thinks that she is helping her. Yes. And that is what it really, really messed up. Because if you're Tory, obviously, you don't see things that way. There was nothing that was stopping Amanda from having a discussion with Sam. It doesn't do Tory any good for Amanda to be like, in this moment, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to Samantha about it. It's like, okay, great, you're gonna talk to her about it after Tory has already quit the second job, and the only move Tory makes to get the power back here is a glitter bomb. And let me just say this.
Yeah, she could have done way worse. We've seen way worse.
The glitter bomb, the worst thing that comes after it is, okay, it's a little bit hard to clean, but you know what? Glitter bombs are also just kind of fun. It's just like, this is the most innocent form of punishment you can administer. And so I don't really get fully Amanda's story right now. If she wants to help Tory, and actually that's where they're going, I think the writers need to give Amanda a little bit more clarity as to how exactly to do that, and not sort of do this whole thing where after the fact she acts like she cares, and that's too little too late.
Okay, let's talk about the drive-in fight, which I think we all thought was going to be the next big brawl of the season. I didn't know where it was going. So we've got both sides together. Miguel is like, let's meet at the baseball diamond in 30 minutes. And at first I was like, I wonder if he's asked for 30 minutes because what he's going to do is get a bunch of baseball gear together and be like, we're going to battle this out with a game. I kind of thought maybe that's where he was going to go with it. Instead, he gets them to go there. The sprinkler systems go off. They all get humiliated. And then he drives home. I was just like, okay, Johnny and Daniel are both going to be really pissed off about this because they're starting something. They didn't need to do that. Miguel could have easily been like, meet me at the diamond in 30 minutes, and then just got in his car and drove home.
That would have been it.
That's the Miyagi way. That is what he has said. Listen, if you can get out of a fight, get out of the fight. You only use fighting for defense. If you don't have to defend yourself and you can walk away, get in your car and walk away. That's the point. So at the end, when it all comes out, and Johnny's like, okay, so you poke the bear. Cool. Why would you do that? To have Daniel come out and be like, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud. That's the Miyagi way. I'm like, that is not the Miyagi way. What are you talking about?
That to me felt like it was Cobra Kai, the show, really desperately trying to reinforce this divide that is there between Johnny and Daniel as to who can be the best father figure for Miguel. And I don't think they needed to do that because we already have evidence that is happening throughout the rest of the episode. I mean, we'll ask you guys for your thoughts on all this because if you were in the situation of Miguel, what would you have done? Would you have gone with the whole meet me at the baseball diamond sprinkler sort of controversy here? Would you have actually started a brawl? Would you have just walked away? Because I think very fully, much like Johnny and much like you have expressed, it is a terrible move, because I don't think it's any better than actually getting into a fight.
Agreed.
Because this is just like pure humiliation. You feel stood up. You didn't even have a chance, if you are in Cobra Kai, to actually fight back. And I think this just makes them all even angrier with this just pent up emotion.
Yeah. And I mean, even back in Karate Kid, we've even seen this on the show a few seasons ago, where Johnny sort of pointed out when we've had situations where like Daniel threw water all over him and how he felt on the other side of it, where he's like, okay, yeah, I did some stuff to you, but you did some stuff to me as well. And maybe that's why where Daniel's like, hey, throwing water on somebody, that's A-okay. But then that means he really still hasn't listened to what Johnny said, where he's like, that was really humiliating. You made me feel really crappy about myself. It made me angrier. Like, it's got to sort of stop. Where Johnny was saying, from the perspective of the guy who had water poured on him, where he's like, listen, this is such a bad idea. And that he has learned from that situation.
I think one of the general themes of Cobra Kai is people really struggle to take full responsibility for their own actions and understand exactly why it is that someone is mad at them, because they just always just like twist and turn it into all these other different sort of directions. And one of the last big stories to get into here is just the continuation of all of this, which is the tension between, Johnny and Daniel over Miguel now. And I think, Johnny's frustration about these ringing endorsements of Miguel, it comes from so many different places at this point. That's why we didn't need the "you're doing things the Miyagi way" line at the end of this, because just think about the idea that Johnny's idea of a perfect, I guess, father surrogate son sort of bonding moment here is making manwiches, which, by the way, I'm saying not manly enough, was just brilliant.
And pouring a bunch of jerky in it. I thought it was so sweet. I mean, he clearly was putting as much Johnny thought as he could. He thought this was a really good thing. Clearly, they've had some manwiches together. Even him, like, pouring up the chips and folding up the bag. Like, he really wants to find that moment where he can pull back in that moment of like, I'm the father figure, where it's sitting right in front of him, which is that he is dating his mother. If he really wants to have that sort of connection, that's where it is. And Carmen called it straight out. She's like, why would Miguel have a problem with this? He loves you. And it's true.
He's dealing with all this just like insecurity that is in so many ways misplaced. Like with Daniel, I think what he's struggling with is, he's taken Miguel to Katsuya, this place that, Johnny can never really afford. And he thinks for some reason that Miguel is going to be just like wooed over because of nice things and expensive sushi. And from what we've seen, that's not who Miguel is at all.
No. And it's interesting too, because that does seem to be a pretty strong theme this season of sort of people who have a lot of money and people who don't have a lot of money, and people who have privilege and people who don't, and are, having to work a little bit harder for things. And then, you have Daniel sort of in the middle of this, where he's a guy who came from nothing and was able to grow something from it. And there does seem to be a lot of that playing around as part of the themes this season of, am I not good enough? Do I need to earn more? Does money mean that I'm in a worse place or a better place? Like, it's all sort of this very interesting perspective that I hadn't really seen them lean into that much before.
And I think it's working really effectively.
Yeah, it's good.
Even if we have questions about some characters' decision making here, I think everyone is really, really thought out, really layered. I think it's all messy and complicated. And guess what? We're only in episode 4, everybody.
What a great season so far. It's been really good.
Okay, well, let us know what you guys thought about this episode, and hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. We are here doing 2 of these a day until it's all said and done. We'll see you here next time.